and welcome to the Great British Mickey Waffle. It's the 1st of March 2023, and we are so pleased that you can join us for this show. 2023 is whizzing away, and the first of the Wafflers have already finished their trip, with Robyn and Simon having had an amazing trip over to Orlando for Festival of the Arts, or FARTS, as we like to call it. They were catching up with friends. They got rather wet in Trader Sam's, and I think, a chorus of uh-oh is needed for that particular moment. And if you missed the live show straight from the magic, be sure to look it up on YouTube. It was a Wafflers Wednesday, and it was on the 8th of February. But this month, obviously, I can't do any of this alone. It would be very boring for you to listen to me on my own for, an hour waffling on. So I've got some friends with me, as always. So welcome to the table, the virtual table, Ben.
Hello.
And Becca sat with you.
Hello.
Hello. Are you two okay?
Yeah. I can't believe we're in March. It feels really strange. We were just talking about January the other week, and it's like February just gone by, and it's like, where did that happen?
Yeah. Spring is on its way. I am absolutely confident. And we've got Peter and Jill. Peter and Jill over there in the Welsh corner of the room. And you've already heard him chuckling and chuntering. It's John. He's with us.
That just about sums me up, Claire. Yeah, chuckling and chuntering in the corner. Yeah, I like
that's
that.
About right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's your modus operandus, I think, particularly for most.
I think it is. Yeah,
so,
yeah. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a really good show, and it's March. Goodness.
I know. It's not long. I've got a trip coming up, and this is like the slippery slope into vacation time, isn't it? Because I've got a trip coming up, then Robyn and Simon have got another, and then Ben and Becca, and then me, and then eventually, sometime later this year, Peter and Jill are going to Tokyo, and then I'm going back to Orlando.
Yeah.
It's going to be Christmas before we know it. When does Christmas start?
Yes, absolutely.
And November. You're already planning.
The countdown starts now.
The team already must be planning Halloween, so...
I think they started planning Halloween last Halloween, so...
Well, hopefully we'll be celebrating Christmas in Tokyo Disney in November.
Because it should be Christmas.
Yeah, it should be Christmas by the time we go.
Well, do you know what? Talking about countdowns, what a perfect segue into inviting you to listen to our new segment that's going to be over the next few months. So we're going to be covering the Journey to a Century, our series in decades of the 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. And we're going to start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. If anyone wants to sing along with Do Re Mi, you're very welcome. So let's hear a little Disney history and how it all became and where it all began. So Ben, who will introduce us to the first decade of 1923 to 1933 and what was going on for Walt, Roy and Mickey.
The first decade of the Walt Disney Company from 1923 to 1933 was marked by determination, hard work, and a relentless pursuit of innovation. It all started in 1923 when Walt Disney and his brother Roy formed the Disney Brothers Studio. They were two young animators who were eager to make their mark in the entertainment industry. In the early years, Walt and Roy produced a series of short films featuring a character named Oswald. Walt and Roy lost the rights to Oswald due to a series of events that started with negotiations with the distributor of the Oswald shorts, Universal Pictures. During these negotiations, Disney discovered that Universal had signed a contract with the animators who created Oswald, not with the Disney studio. As a result, when the contract with Universal was up for renewal, the distributor offered the renewal to the animators, who jumped at the opportunity to seek more money and creative control. In response, Walt decided to create a new character that would be owned outright by the Disney studio. When Walt Disney first began to develop the character, he named him Mortimer, but his wife advised him to change the name to Mickey, which she believed was friendlier and more appealing. Walt agreed with her suggestion, and Mickey Mouse was born. A lovable, mischievous character with a distinctive appearance and personality. Mickey Mouse made his debut in the short film Steamboat Willie, and quickly became a cultural sensation. He went on to star in numerous short films, feature-length films and merchandise, cementing his place as one of the most beloved and recognisable characters in the world. The creation of Mickey Mouse marked the beginning of a new era for the Disney Brothers studio. They produced a series of short films featuring Mickey, as well as other popular characters like Donald and Goofy. These films were called Silly Symphonies, and they incorporated synchronised sound and music into animated films for the very first time. This was a major innovation in the industry. Walt and Roy were also exploring other forms of entertainment. They produced live-action films and experimented with combining animation with live-action footage. This experimentation laid the foundation for the company's later success, producing full-length animated features. Despite facing financial struggles and creative challenges in the early years, Walt and Roy persevered. By the end of the decade, the studio had established itself as a major player in the entertainment industry, and the foundation was laid for the creation of an entertainment empire. But in conclusion, the first decade of the Walt Disney Company was marked by hard work, determination, and a relentless pursuit of innovation. It was a time of great growth and change, and the groundwork was laid for the company's future success.
Thank you, Ben. That was such a great start to our monthly segment. So we're going to be covering a decade each month for the next few months, counting down to not only 100 years of Disney, but something really special. So what do you guys think? Were you aware that all of that happened in the first 10 years?
It's amazing how much happened, isn't it?
Yeah. And how much that happened within that decade was so pivotal in them actually becoming a company. Because, I know I've said it before, if anyone's never seen One Man's Dream,
I knew it was coming.
Go and see it. Go and see it. However, there's such a thin line between success and failure, and both Walt and Roy walked that line for so long of this decade. We really just can't understand of how close to complete failure Disney could have been, and that given the stratospheric sort of change in the whole company as we move through these decades, to actually think of where it started without Mickey, but with Oswald, and to think of how that itself was just such a massive change, and actually Walt taking control of the whole situation himself. It's incredible. I
love that bit about Oswald.
Yeah,
especially the bit where we talk about now about Disney versus Universal, and it just started all the way back then as it was Universal Studio.
But isn't it cool that they've got Oswald in California as a meet and greet? I just think it's amazing. I wish they would bring him to Walt Disney World, because I know Morgan was like, I need to go and meet Oswald. Morgan loves Oswald. He's got Oswald on his car. Ariel, he's got Oswald. Like the Mickey ears hats, Morgan's got the Oswald one. He's got...
Have you seen the new merchandise that have come out recently? I think it got announced last week that... Disney are doing it like us. We're doing our decades, our countdown, but they've got merchandise for each decade of Disney. So and all of it.
We are in tune. Clearly, that's amazing.
I know where I'd put that Oswald meet and greet.
Where would you put it?
I'd put it where
Hollywood
Sally
Studio.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect place.
Go and meet Oswald, and then go and watch
One Man's Dream. They've missed a trick.
Pick out Sally.
Yeah. Sorry, Sally.
You can come back in about 80 years' time. They've missed a trick there, having Oswald and Hortensia. That would be really cool. I'm sad they haven't, actually, because that would have been perfect. But
there's still time.
You never know. Anyway.
I think as well, there's a real lesson to be taken from it, though, because that actual resilience, I think, Ben, you said that just in your conclusion, really, that determination to actually innovate and to actually do things that had never, ever been done before, and at a hell of a cost in some respects, was something that really, I think anyone who's a Disney fan you've only got to be thankful that resilience and that determination actually saw them through, because I think there's so many times where it probably could have been easier to just sort of lose sight of the dream.
Go with the flow and do whatever. Yeah. Do you know what, John? You raise a really good point, because for me, I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I admire about Walt and Roy is the willingness to do something different, to be different, to push beyond the boundaries and try something new, and not really know how it's going to go, but to put the risk in, and that's something that I think is incredible. And I can only aspire to be like that. And I know it's not for everyone, but I would rather push the boundaries and fail than not try.
Yeah.
So that for me is something that I admire hugely about the Disney brothers.
I think it also shows just what a good team Roy and Walt made. Just how good they were together, not just as individuals in their strengths. Together, they were more than their individual strengths.
Yeah. The whole was stronger than the sum of the parts. Is that the right phrase?
That's close enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I got that right or not.
I was thinking more than the sum of their parts. So
that's right. That's the phrase, Becca. Thank you. I'm glad you're keep me corrected.
That's all right. That's how we work here.
You're a team, right?
Exactly.
The whole is better than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
There you go.
So last month we talked about which airports were our favourite in the UK and also in Florida when we were enjoying travelling to the Magic. We covered from Miami to Tampa to Orlando International to flying in direct. We talked about Gatwick, Heathrow, Manchester, all sorts of places. For many of us, though, the option of staying at the airport the night before you travel is not only sometimes a necessary travel consideration, but sometimes can be a cheeky way to extend your trip by an extra night. From my point of view, we only live an hour and 20 minutes drive on a bad day from London Gatwick. And if we're flying from there, we still stay the night before because it's fun. You get to feel like you're going on holiday the day before. But from budget to luxury, some hotels have huge family suites and then others that resemble a virtual technological cupboard. Naming no names, looking at you, Block Hotel. Where is your... I've got something to say about that. Where are your hotels of choice? If you were going to the airport the night before, where would you be staying? And where have you stayed? And what... I don't know these are recommendations, but certainly a discussion.
I agree with you because we don't live too far from each other. It's avoiding the M25. It's always been ever since
the circular car park.
Our first trip, it's like, okay, what if there's an accident? What if there's roadworks? It takes the anxiety out of, like, especially if you've got a morning flight. And it's like, okay, it's just something I don't have to worry about. If I'm there a day before, the night before, it's perfect. Because then I'm more relaxed. I know that a car is parked. And with some of the hotels, you can walk straight from the hotel to the terminal.
You can, yeah.
And it means that you don't have to get up as early.
Well, that's the thing. So even if you've got a flight at 11 o'clock in the morning, you need to be there at least 3 hours before because it's an international flight. So by the time, from home, we would be getting up at, I would be getting up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. The others might not get quite so early, but that's the time. And then you've got to drive and park, and there's the stress of, actually, am I going to come across an accident? And what if I can't, all of the stuff. And actually, if you just go the night before, you can have something to eat, have a drink in the bar, go to bed at a sensible time, not sleep, of course, because you're completely excited, and wake up every hour looking at your clock going, is it time to get up yet? But that's what I do anyway. But I think you're right, Ben. There's something about being there and feeling like you're secure. There's no risk involved at that point, which is, who doesn't worry about missing their flight? I mean, it's not even worth thinking about, is it? So, where have you guys stayed? Where do you want to start? Do you want to start in Manchester? Because that was like, you loved Manchester Airport, Ben and Becca, didn't you?
I'd say love Manchester Airport. I wasn't so keen on the hotel, but that
Oh,
was
dear.
just we didn't stay there very long because after a 5-6 hour drive.
We got there about 9 o'clock in the evening, and we left about
5:30, 6.
I was going to say 6. So
okay,
we didn't really.
Which hotel was it?
It was the Premier
Inn.
Hilled Green.
Yes, we stayed at Premier Inn Hill Green.
Like the hotel.
John, have you stayed at the Premier Inn Hill Green?
That has actually become our choice hotel. If we're going from Manchester,
I feel like the odd one out. I've not stayed there.
You need to come from Manchester, Claire.
It actually,
No,
it actually
I lived
is
there
one
for
of
3
those
years,
places that you can usually pick it up as quite a reasonable price, simply because it's not advertised as Manchester Airport. If you put in a search on the Premier Inn website and it comes up, just put in Heel Green, it doesn't rack up the same charges as the airport north and south ones. The choices there actually could, because you're actually within a small village, is you can actually go and buy snacks at Tesco Express. There's a fantastic pub around the corner, not the Beefeater, which I know Peter and Jill, you didn't have a good experience there, but it's a cracking pub just round the corner, which is dead cheap for not just for beer, but also for food, which is another little hidden tip there. But like you said, Claire, I've learnt a lesson along the way. I've stayed in some very expensive hotels the night before. I never sleep because actually I'm that excited about going on a holiday, and you always know that the following morning, especially from Manchester, because actually, I think the past few times we've been from there, it's either been down to Heathrow, or we actually went to Frankfurt, and previously we've been to lots of. I think we even went to Paris one time. So you're on that first flight out of Manchester in the morning. You've got to be at the airport for 4 o'clock. So why waste a lot of money on something that actually you're not going to utilise to the fullest extent?
I agree.
It becomes a real weird one because there are some real good places in Manchester that you can stay, which also include parking. But it becomes it's that bit. What do you want to spend your money on, your holiday or the night before? And actually, for us, we need to stay in a hotel because of where we live. So if we're either driving or we get the train to either Manchester or London, it is a night before job. So I think we've learned not to splash.
Yeah, it was perfect for driving and for parking. So driving up there was easy to find. It was simple. It was because every time I looked on the map, it's like, okay, well, there's quite a few Premier Inns in the area, and it's that one's only just outside of Manchester Airport, and it was like it was easy to get to. We didn't have any issues.
What, 10 minutes from the airport?
Yeah,
in fact.
Yeah. You can also
if you don't drive,
out there as well.
I was going to say,
trains
if you don't drive,
option there.
It's one stop. From the airport, and they go very early in the morning.
The only problem we had, because it was winter when we flew, it was January, and there'd been snow around and ice, and all the area around it was just a sheet of ice. Yeah. So we managed to given that the hotel is right next door to the station, getting from the station to the hotel was still quite an expedition. So we decided that rather than braving the train at 4 o'clock in the morning, we would actually get a taxi. And the taxi was fine, didn't take long.
Didn't take long,
and it wasn't expensive. So
and there's no rock-up charge at Manchester Airport like there is at Heathrow.
Yeah, they don't charge the taxi.
They don't charge the taxi for dropping off. Yeah.
I have to say, we had no problems with the hotel. The hotel was fine. Room was fine. It's a Premier Inn. You know what you're going to get. Staff were fine. I would say do not eat in the Beefeater, but maybe that was just us. But one thing that was interesting, they were selling toothbrush and toothpaste in aid of Great Ormond Street Hospital. which, for those who don't know, is a children's hospital. So we thought, because we needed to get some toothpaste, so we thought, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll buy one. Trouble is, they were full size, and of course, you can't take a full size tube of toothpaste
through security
because we'd already dropped our luggage.
Are they more than 100 mils?
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
a full size one is. Yeah,
that's quite a bargain, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. It's a great
only about
price,
yeah, you're probably paying less than you would if you go to Tesco.
Yeah,
that's really good.
But we have fed back to them that it would be a good idea if they sold little travel size ones, because I'm sure we weren't the only people.
Yeah,
I think Premier Inn's going to get a lot of mentions tonight, and
it is.
Yeah,
I think we've stayed.
It's our go-to.
Let's make sure we tag them in the socials.
Yeah,
I
have to admit, we always used to fly from Gatwick, being that's our closest airport, and we usually would stay in Premier Inn North, even if you were flying from the south.
Definitely,
just because
I always do
of the location, as it was so easy to just walk across the terminal. The rooms there were incredible. The food we had food there a couple of times. Amazing. Right. Couldn't afford it at all.
Yeah.
And the price was always good. We would never normally pay more than £50 for the night.
Yeah.
So,
and I have to big them up. The first time we stayed there, it was Halloween, and they were all dressed up. Again, they were raising money for Great Ormond Street. The staff were all dressed up. We shared a lift with a guy dressed as a zombie.
With an axe
in his head, who spent the whole lift journey just mumbling ominously with brains.
Was that for Heathrow, Jim?
No, that was for Gatwick.
If it was an Uber, you wouldn't get in a taxi like that, would you?
Right, that's what I'm just thinking. I wouldn't.
No, this was in the hotel. This was in the actual Premier Inn in the hotel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think you're right, Ben. I think so. For me, the Premier Inn North Terminal at Gatwick is an absolute steal. Mostly, I would say the prices have gone up significantly in the last 2 or 3 years since COVID. Definitely, I used them twice last year, twice, maybe 3 times, and I did exactly what you said. So actually, when I did my solo trips, I parked in, because British Airways fly from the South Terminal at Gatwick, so I parked in the South Terminal, short stay. Left my car there, jumped on the little train, which is all of 2.5 minutes, over to, not even that, I don't think, over to the North Terminal, and the Premier Inn is literally straight outside. You just cross the road. And it's so convenient. And I've lost count of how many times we've stayed there, and quite often, because exactly what you're saying, John, that you're staying there one night. It's usually a short night because you might be arriving late, leaving early. They do family rooms, so they do their standard rooms. They do a premier room, which I may have booked for myself in December, which has got slightly nicer decor, slightly bigger, better Wi-Fi.
You get a coffee machine as well,
and they give you chocolate as well. I think
they do. They do give you green and black's chocolate, yes. And there's a fridge, and there's a fridge in the room, which was very handy because I had a whole pile of cheese for Zach Brown, so that went in the fridge overnight and didn't stink out my case. So that was handy. The price difference between the standard room and the premier room was about £12. I would say it's absolutely worth it because you're on a different floor as well, which is always nice. The food in the hotel, I've never found to be anything but good. I'm not going to say it's exceptional because a lot of it is, standard sort of, it's a Premier Inn food. It's not going to be anything fancy, but it's certainly edible. It's tasty. There's a good selection and it's a good price. Do book your restaurant reservation, though. What I'd say is every time we've turned up and we haven't booked a restaurant reservation, it's always been a bit tricky to try and get in there in a sensible time. The bar is excellent. They've got a good stock of drinks. Good range of gins and beers and ciders. That it isn't a massive bar though, so it does get quite busy, particularly if there's sport on TV because they've got big screens. But and there's a big Costa there as well. So if you just want to grab the sandwich,
there's a Costa coffee there, which is
and
great.
It's open late and early. So for the price that you pay, I think it's a really good deal. And we invariably all four of us will share a room at the hotel the night before, which never usually happens now. Obviously Morgan's an adult, and we will share one room between the four of us because we know we're only going to be there for like 6 hours, so there's no point paying for 2 rooms. So we manage 3 adults and a child in one room. It's a bit snug, but it can be done, and for the price that you pay for one night is total steal. So I would say that Premier Inn North Terminal Gatwick gets a big thumbs up from us always.
Yep.
It was something we missed the first time we flew from Heathrow. We flew from Terminal 3, and it was just like, when I went to look, because we thought, okay, this was our budget trip where we were going February half term. We got a good deal on the flights, but it's from Heathrow, not our usual Gatwick. So it's like, okay, I know we've said in Premier Inns before, let's look at those, but they're all everywhere. They're down Bath Road, they're at Terminal 4, there's loads of different places, and it's like, how do we get from, I'm so used to parking the car the night before, getting to the hotel, and then going to
just walking.
But we did it. We did it. We stayed at Premier Inn Terminal 4, which was under refurbishment, but it was finished by the time we were there. We got a little bit lost on the way because we got the train.
Yeah. So what I would recommend is, if you are going to stay at Terminal 4 or 5 or wherever and travel out of, say, Terminal 3, if you're going Virgin, or one of the other carriers that fly from there, park at the Terminal 3 and then get the train over to the 4. Don't park in the Terminal 4 parking, and because otherwise you have to get the train back from 3 to 4 after your flight has landed, and if you've an overnight flight and you don't sleep, it's not the most fun experience.
I stayed in Bath Road when I went to Sweden, and basically I got the bus from Terminal 5. It's 2 stops, and then you get it back in the morning. It's not difficult. It's a normal bus, so if you have lots of luggage, you've got a problem. But I only had one case, so
it's having that different thought about looking at it differently. I think we're so used to Gatwick going, okay, I can walk across the road, I'm in there, and it's why when we went in 2021, when we're flying with Virgin, 2021 November, we stayed at the Air Hotel,
November 7th, first day.
All opened.
We all remember.
I'm glad you lot do, because I don't.
We stayed at the Air Hotel, which was an experience.
How was that?
Claire, I know you mentioned Block, and I have to admit, loved the hotel.
It is. The thing about those hotels,
there's no windows. There's no windows.
It is like sleeping in a cupboard.
There is a door.
No door.
It's slightly bigger than, I think, probably Emirates first class seat on the aeroplane. Marginally bigger. And some of the rooms I've seen, they literally, like the bed, you've got a big double bed, but the end of the bed folds up so you can get into the room, you can unpack, then you put your bags under the end of the bed, and then the bed folds down so you can sleep in it. And then when you get up in the morning, you fold the bed back up. There are hotels like that, and like literally the bathroom is, you can sit on the loo and have a shower and wash your hands all at the same time. It's so small. It's like a traditional Italian bathroom. There's not a lot of space.
We have a room tour of the Air Hotel on our YouTube channel, so I'll put a link in the description.
Oh, definitely. Tech-wise, they're amazing.
The only concern we had with it was the green lights in the ceiling, which you couldn't tell until you turn the lights off. I don't know what they were, safety and security, but you looked like going to sleep. It's like, I can't sleep because there's this green light just staring at you.
It looks like 2 eyes staring at you.
Yes.
That's not good. I mean, some of those hotels, when you look at Block, Air Hotel, even the Yotel, they are of a style. They are not designed to be luxury, but they are designed to be technologically high end. Like Yotel is in Gatwick is really expensive. I priced up Yotel, Block, Premier Inn, Sofitel, and the Yotel came out the most expensive out of any of them.
Wow.
It used to be so cheap.
Yeah.
And it's been like, oh, okay, I get it. Oh, it's a small room. I understand that's what it is. But Aerotel, the reason why we booked it is because we compared that with the Hilton next door, and it was half the price.
Yeah.
When
So
we looked.
I think Heathrow is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? Because you've either got to go, like Peter said, down the road, and quite frankly, I don't want to be getting a bus. Thanks. That's not.
There's a real big choice there on Bath Road. Though there's some real premium hotels. Some of the premium hotels offer. Yeah, but they offer parking as well. So a couple of times we've gone from Heathrow and had the car.
Yeah,
and it's actually been worthwhile staying there just for the parking, because I think there is a bigger problem at Heathrow as regarding having the car and parking at the airport.
Yeah,
but you are in the hands of the hotel as to either the transfer
and getting to the
into the airport, or like Peter said, getting on the bus. All the terminals are very well served by. I'm not even sure what number bus it is now, but along Bath Road, you can get certainly the bus. Bus is actually the cheapest option. But again, I think, like I said earlier, it's all cost prohibitive, and whether or not I can't even remember the name of the hotel because it was more than 10 years ago, and I'm pretty sure I'm just trying to look at which hotel it was. I'm sure they've changed the name of it, or I'm not sure if they're open at the moment or not. But we stayed there. It was a beautiful, beautiful hotel. Kids were young. We knew we had to be up early the following morning. And actually, I think it was 2010, and there was a storm coming in on the west coast of the US. And at that point, I heard somebody saying the early flight had been cancelled. I never slept a wink because I couldn't tell the family that there was a snowstorm hitting the east coast of America, and we might not be going for Christmas. And it was just one of them ones, and you think, no, we'll deal with that in the morning.
Keep your mouth shut.
We'll just like, exactly. It was just
let's have some dinner and
it was such a horrible night. I'll never forget it. But that's again, do you pay? It's a good question. Do you pay the premium of a decent hotel, or do you just basically put up with the fact that you're not going to sleep? So just take the hit and find somewhere just to know that it's basically it's a night's camping.
You're nearby
before you get on an early flight. It's just I think that's
John. You mentioned John. You mentioned about snowstorms. Of course, because we tend to go in the winter, weather is a consideration for us, and because quite often we've had early flights. So again, you're not wanting necessarily to rely on things like trains, shuttles, etc., etc. So that's one reason that we looked for things that were walkable. Because again, back in 2010, Gatwick was shut for 5 days.
You can't control. It's trying to build control of certain things of where you choose and where you are, and trying to make your experience where you're looking for. It's like John, you mentioned it about parking and hotel packages, because we're still trying to work out what we're going to do for June, and there's so many different hotel options, and because we're going to upper class, we want to be dropped off at the
actually parking somewhere else and
Terminal
being driven in would be better.
And being driven in is what we need. So it's trying to work out.
Ben, we're going from Heathrow, and actually we've done this twice now from Heathrow, and we're doing it in a few weeks' time. We stay away. So, we worked on the theory that if you go to a hotel on Bath Road, by the time you have got your stuff together and either waited for the hotel shuttle or got the bus, it's going to be 20 minutes to half an hour before you arrive at the airport. Gathering the troops and making sure everyone's organised. We actually choose to stay slightly further away. So we have stayed previously at the Hilton at St Alm's Manor, which is in Wokingham.
Okay. We might look at that one.
It's a really nice hotel. It's a Hilton which has got a swimming pool, steam room, sauna, a nice restaurant, different size rooms. It does parking option, but actually we tend to then drive to park at the Heathrow parking, because you're not then trying to work out how am I going to leave my car. So you stay the night before and then drive into Heathrow and leave your car in the either long stay, short stay, whatever it looks like. So I just pulled up the prices. So for a night for 4 people in a room, the night that we're going is £130, and that includes breakfast. So and that's a nice hotel. So it's a 3 to 4 star hotel. This time we are actually staying. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to stay offsite in Windsor, so that's all of 10-minute drive from Heathrow, and we're going to pick Morgan up in Egham on the way, have some lunch, go to the hotel, and we're staying at the De Vere Beaumont estate. And again, the price of that hotel is still cheaper than something on Bath Road. Now, we haven't got parking included. Again, we've got to drive into Heathrow the morning of the flight, but we know we're only 10 minutes away, and it's a nice hotel. So rather than trying to juggle transfers of Bath Road or going backwards and forwards between terminals, we go, actually, we're going to spend maybe
a little bit more,
50 quid more, and we're going to stay in a really nice hotel which has got a lovely restaurant and nice grounds. We can go in the afternoon, spend some time, so it does enhance the holiday by an extra half day, and then just drive in, park, and we're actually parking the short stay, I think, when we go in March, in a couple of weeks' time, for the time that we're away. So I think from Heathrow, there's actually, if you're prepared, if you are driving, there are alternative options that are maybe, if you look 15-20 minutes away from Heathrow, because it's such a it's such an isolated place on the edge of the M25 M4 junction. You've got so
talking
many
of the
M4 around there.
We stayed Premier in M4 Junction 4, so
right.
It wasn't classed as Heathrow, but it cost us £29. Where we looked at anything that had Heathrow on, it was £80
from Heathrow.
It was.
This is it. You move away from Heathrow, you pay a lot less for a lot more. You just have to either be prepared to get a taxi or drive into Heathrow parking afterwards. And I think that for us, that tends to work out a better option. And it's something that people might not realise you're that close.
Yeah, and the prices we've got from hotels from Bath Road that we've looked at for June, they want 15 to 30 quid for a taxi to go from there to there. Yeah. It's like it's going to cost that.
Pay
from
that
a lot
on a
of
nice
places.
hotel. Go and stay in Windsor. Have a walk around the castles, walk around the grounds, do a bit of shopping. Have a nice day, and then
we actually went to Legoland before we went on holiday one year. We were staying at the
close.
Sheraton Skyline. We stayed at and actually drove out to Legoland as well. Mm-hmm. So again, it just adds to your holiday. And we've been like Peter and Jill. We've actually got the train from where we are, because actually I realised that the drive home, if you're not staying when you return, the drive home is a bit of a tricky one. When you'd be on a flight back from Florida,
the red eye,
it's not good. But there's loads to do. I'm actually thinking a little bit differently. Because another time we spent a couple of days in London and actually did fabulous couple of days just before your holiday starts, and actually it was absolutely magnificent. And
I agree.
Just come back, jump on the tube straight into King's Cross, and then waited 3 hours for a train.
That's what you want.
Good old British Rail. But actually,
that's
you don't care.
Where you got. If you think, you just think differently about it, rather than
you do.
I think hotels try to cash in on the fact of convenience and sort of close proximity to the airport, and you don't need to be that close all the time.
I think there's an argument for both.
Taxi and an Uber.
There is. Absolutely.
Having said that, last time, because of a combination of strike action and weather and an early flight, because we had an 8 a.m. flight, we did decide that we would stay somewhere where you could walk to the terminal, and therefore nothing, to quote Mickey, nothing would stop us now. So that we could walk there in 15 minutes. So we stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn. Hilton Garden Inn, that's right. Heathrow Terminal 2 and 3. And that is 15 minutes walk. You can walk to Terminal 2 and then Terminal 3, and it is literally 15 minutes walk.
It's just through the car park, isn't it? through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many
If you're going
options.
for- yeah.
Go on, Peter.
If you're flying from 5, which if you're flying from British Airways, sometimes they will move your plane to flat 5 because that's the terminal at Heathrow.
Yes,
You
unless
can
you're flying
stay-
direct, because you can't fly from
Yeah.
Heathrow direct to Orlando International. You have to go to Gatwick.
No, but
Yeah.
Gatwick.
With
Yeah,
BA.
but if you're flying to Miami or somewhere like that,
Yeah.
and then you can stay at the Thistle Hotel, and the Thistle Hotel is attached to the pod parking.
The Thistle Hotel.
Have you
Do
seen
you know
the
what?
pod parking?
Yes, we've seen the pod parking. I've
Good.
definitely
Yes.
seen the pod. But Thistle Hotel. So you know what, Peter? You've just taken me back like 30 years.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
having grown up in Scotland, Thistle Hotels
Yes.
were like the thing.
Yeah.
My parents,
Yeah.
I just remember the
Yes.
Thistle Hotels that we've stayed
Yeah.
at around the UK. They were, goodness me, that's literally just taking me back. And any
It
of
is
my
the only hotel
family
that
that are
gives
listening
you pod
will know.
parking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is
goodness
the only
me.
hotel that allows you to use the pods
Yeah.
if you're staying at the hotel. It is the only
Yeah.
hotel.
Even if you're not parking there.
Yeah.
No, but that's. I think the other thing is at Gatwick there are other options. There's Hilton at the North Terminal. There is the Yotel.
Yep.
We mentioned that. There's the Sofitel at the South Terminal, which is next door to the Premier Inn. I've stayed at the Sofitel many
The only
times.
difference is that you can walk directly into it. You don't have to cross one road.
Yeah.
That's the only difference between the Sofitel and the
Premier Inn.
Well,
Premier
in
Inn.
terms of getting
That-
between them, yeah.
that-
I'm sure there's
and
a lot
it's-
of difference in the actual
There
room.
is quite a lot of
Room.
difference in the hotel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
you
know
know
there
what I
was
meant.
the
I
price
didn't mean,
difference.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a significant price difference, and
There is, yes.
it doesn't just meet. The price difference isn't just the room. The price difference is in the bar. It's in the restaurant.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
everywhere. But I have to say, if you sign up to, I think it's Accor, who's the parent company of Sofitel,
Yeah.
you can get a really nice room upgrade if you're an Accor member. You go to the Accor members desk. You're quite often you'll get a nice room upgrade. Hint and a tip: if you're staying at the Sofitel, tap your room key on the white panel in the lift before you press the lift floor button. Otherwise, you look like a real numpty because the lift doesn't go anywhere. Just
Very
saying.
clever view disaster experience.
Yeah.
One of the lifts
More
of the
than
Premier Inn.
once.
Yeah.
More than
Oh.
once. Yes. Unfortunately.
Talking of room upgrades, Claire. So talking of room upgrades, Claire, I will say we did get upgraded at the Hilton Garden Inn. We casually happened to mention it was a delayed 25th anniversary trip, delayed by 2 years. And as soon as the lovely Simona heard that, we were suddenly in a floor 13 runway view room.
Lovely.
So,
There you go.
So I think what we've covered is that there is
Can I throw a
all
little
sorts of
curveball in,
options.
Claire?
Yeah, of course.
I quite like a curveball. But has anyone actually stayed on the other side and stayed at a hotel on arrival in Orlando? Apart from your whole,
No.
not including your holiday
I was going to
stuff.
say yes.
Yes,
No.
definitely.
Because
I have
actually,
not, because we took.
Yeah.
Do you know what we talked about it when we flew to Miami, and I was just like, no, do you
Yeah.
know what? I'm just going to drive it. Let's just go.
yeah,
I wanna
that's
get
what
there.
I generally
So-
do. But we did have one trip where we'd actually flown. I think it's one of the few times we've actually flown directly into Orlando with Virgin, and actually because it was quite nice to have a beer on the flight, we decided we would pick the hire car up the day after. So we stayed at the Hyatt Regency. We weren't staying in Orlando for the first week of the holiday. We were going to Anna Maria Island. And what a hotel that is, I tell you. Because
Is
it's
that the
part
one at
of
the
it's
airport?
actually- yeah, it's so cool.
It's the one in the
You
airport,
just feel,
yeah.
you just feel as if you're just part of the airport. So you go
Yeah.
for a swim. So you arrive in Orlando, sort of mid to late afternoon. Instead of all that hassle of actually, sort of getting the hire car and all that, you go and get another couple of beers because you had a couple on the plane. Check into the hotel. But the pool's great because the pool overlooks the runway. So with the kids,
Oh
you
my
were just
goodness,
like-
that's amazing.
you're just
Wow.
plane spotting. You got the smell of aviation, smell of aviation fuel. and you get a swim.
John, does the carpet go through the whole hotel as well?
Oh,
Do you get the
wow.
MCO
It
carpet?
was brilliant, Claire. It actually was a fabulous experience. And again, because we weren't staying in Orlando for the first week of holiday, it was just that little bit of Orlando, and that that feeling. And Orlando Airport's beautiful, isn't it? Because when you land, it's got that real rich smell. So you get off the airplane, and you're just like, yeah, we're on a holidays, we're in Orlando. But it's the same one when you're actually in the hotel. So we got there and then picked the car hire up the following day, saving me one day's worth of car hire. To add, handy hint and tip.
It's probably more expensive than the hotel nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But it then meant I wasn't faced with with that hassle that you get. On arrival, you feel absolutely lousy. Plus the fact
you're in a bundle to try and get in the car and get to where you're going, aren't you? You're just like,
I've partaken of more beer and gin and tonic on the flight than was probably acceptable for the highway patrol guys. So it was all. It just made it was the other side of it. Instead of that sort of big rush. But in order to pay for that, we did the opposite. We actually went to Manchester Airport the day of the flight.
Ooh,
risky,
controversial.
Never again. Never again. The M62 was shut.
Oh no!
It was 3 in the morning.
No.
M62 shut. You are panicking. You're thinking
that is my nightmare.
And that was before the cars had sat navs in them and things like that. So I was digging out. I was getting the kids to dig out my case, the sat nav that we have for Orlando. It was just like, quick, get us out. We'll change the map. Let's try and find a way we can actually get to Manchester Airport in time. And it was,
goodness me!
And at that moment, and you realise that's why you pay for a Premier Inn the night before you fly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you've summed it up, John. You've summed it up. Just you know what I do think if you're travelling any distance to the airport, and not everybody does, and some people just jump on the Gatwick Express from the middle of London, whatever it is. If you're travelling any distance or along a main artery route, which is going to potentially have traffic challenges, or there's train strikes or any of that stuff, it's absolutely, in my opinion, and I think we've talked about it quite a lot, it is totally worth spending the night before. And just starting your holiday relaxed without stress. That for me is the key. But there's another step in the journey which we haven't covered, which is when you've checked your bags in the morning, because for us most of the flights to Orlando, when you checked your bags in. Oh, I know where I'm going.
Absolutely.
You've asked for a cheeky upgrade at the desk and you've been denied.
Well, yeah.
It's
really interesting. There are certain ways of securing those, but I think that's a conversation for another day. But when you get through security and you've done all the stuff and you've taken your laptop out and put it back in and all of that, and you walk out into the concourse, where are you going to go? Are you going to be one of the mob that goes to Wetherspoons and has your £5 fry up and your 6 pints of lager before you get on a plane at 8 a.m? Or are you going to go and find yourself a lounge? So I think each airport has its own array of lounges. Some you pay for, some come as part of your trip because you're flying in a certain class, you're a certain level of member, with airlines. What's been your experience of airport lounges, and what do you think about them?
I've only ever had to pay for them. I've had to pay for them because we've never flown any high enough to get them. But by and large, not bad. The best one we had was, I think, certainly I had, was the one I had when I was flying to Sweden, which was from Terminal 3 on my own. Yeah. and I think that was Plaza Premium.
Okay.
And you pay something like $55. £55 for 3 hours. and the food was good, and you got lots of free alcohol. And
was it quieter than? I mean, because lounges effectively are telling you that they are exclusive.
Yeah,
there's better Wi-Fi. I mean, the types of things that you get are food. You get drink, usually fairly unlimited alcohol of varying guises. Some you serve yourself. Some you have to go to the bar and be served. Some are table service only. Better Wi-Fi, much nicer toilets. Obviously, that's very important. Showers. Luggage
there was
storage.
There were some reading nook seats in the one that I went to in Heathrow, which was really nice. Yeah,
places that there are magazines, there are newspapers, places to charge stuff. You know, actually, is it nice? That a lot of them overlook the runway and are geared towards someone who doesn't want to be sat on the concourse with a million people, which is me, obviously. But do you think that they deliver that? Did the what did you say, Plaza Premium? Did that deliver that for you, Peter?
I think it depends on which one you get, because we also did number one, but you had to book previously. We did number one at Gatwick.
Gatwick, yeah, and awful,
and that was not good.
Yeah,
and
what was not good about it
first?
It was packed to the gills. There were literally only 2 seats available in the whole place.
And we pre-booked.
And those were little buffets. They weren't even proper chairs. And it was at a shared table with a couple who never stopped talking and bored us for at least 2 hours about their various aspects of their lives.
No.
Right. And the food was not great. And it was just didn't feel worth it.
Bacon roll. So I think you've hit the nail on the head, you know what, Jill, because the number one lounge, I remember when they first opened at Gatwick at the South Terminal, and they were in the location that the BA lounge is in now. They've since moved to a different location.
Yeah.
And I remember us going in when they'd only just opened, and only the upstairs hadn't really opened yet. There was a downstairs only. And it was very much a new thing. And I think we paid about 25 quid each to go. And the food was okay. They had a big buffet and it was lovely. I think number one has now got the monopoly on a lot of airports, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And my experience has been, and we have been in there in the last few years, has been that the quality has deteriorated. So yes, they do hot food, which is their selling point, but the hot food is microwaved. So it's a microwave sausage roll. It's a microwave bacon bap. It's really not, it's not great. They do some snacks on now COVID is sort of a thing that we're not too worried. They do some snacks that you can help yourself to, but it's nothing like it was before. And things like the drinks. So if you want an alcoholic beverage, you have to go to the bar to be served, or it's table service, which I think is, in comparison to some other lounges, which are of a similar price, is not as good. If you look at the Aspire Lounge at Gatwick, which is actually owned by Number One, I think it's right next door to the Number One Lounge. It looks like a high-end New York loft. It's really comfy. It's got lovely big windows. It's got huge sofas. It's got food on the bar. It's serve yourself alcohol as well. So if that's important to you, but if that's important to you,
I like that idea.
Yeah, so actually that's a big selling point for that, and that is cheaper than the Number One Lounge. Now, capacity is not always open. They tend to open it when Number One is fully booked. So if you're there early in the morning, it tends not to be open. But if you're there in the afternoon, it's a really good option, and they have loads of reading material. The Wi-Fi is excellent, and I think that that's an alternative that perhaps people might turn their nose up at, because Number One's such a big brand. And it's not that I hate Number One at all. If Number One are listening, I just think that the value for money is not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Also, for me, I don't drink alcohol before the flight because I've taken not sleeping tablets, travel sickness tablets. So I'm not having alcohol anyway, and I'm not having alcohol on the flight. So so that's
what do you do
anyway. I know, it's terrible, isn't it? And so, to be honest, what we tend to do is we tend to just go somewhere quiet and have a nice breakfast, and then 10 minutes look at the shops, and by then it's largely time to go and get your gate, because our last flight was 8:00 in the morning. So by the time we got through security, it took half an hour to have a nice, quiet, relaxed Eggs Benedict somewhere, and then 10 minutes to look around the shops, and then they called our gate. So there wasn't really that much time.
Are you a lounger, John? You don't strike me as a lounger. It's wasted money.
It is wasted money, and actually, I've actually grown quite partial to go to the lounge if it's the right type of holiday. So if I'm picking up a hire car at the other end, and just like you said with Jill, if you take the alcohol out of the equation, even if it means just having to have a sneaky pint at 6 a.m, I'm that kind of guy. I would just make good value for money out of it, just to
you'll take one for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. But if I'm picking a hire car up, I struggle to see the value in it. If I'm having to pay. Now there's two sides to this, because actually, if you're paying at the moment, the Escape Lounge at Manchester across Terminal 1 and 3, and then Terminal 2, the Escape Lounge is about £35 a head. Now, for access to there, 35 quid. You could go and join the queue to get, particularly Terminal 2 at Manchester, seems to be exceptionally busy for food early in the morning. I would say the lounge experience actually is well worth it, because it just means that you've got guaranteed breakfast, drink what you want, doesn't really matter. But if you go into a whole family, and particularly when the kids were younger, and you know, some lounges are a little bit sniffy about kids going in as well. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing to bear in mind. However, if you are fortunate enough to actually have a plane ticket, which generally I'm not, but I did have on a trip to Boston about 5 years ago, and you can get the Virgin Clubhouse. And that takes it to
You've mentioned the holy grail of lounges.
Different level altogether. And I actually...
Only lounge I've ever seen a Peloton in.
Although why you'd want to go on a Peloton?
I think get all hot and sweaty.
Yeah. Do you know what?
You can have a shower.
You've just taken... If you're going to take lounges to the extreme, and you're going to go to the top end, the Virgin Clubhouse at London Heathrow is their flagship lounge, obviously, because Heathrow's their hub. And there is nothing, in my experience, and I've been in a few lounges, the Heathrow Clubhouse for me is an absolute holy grail of airport lounges. It has a full beauty salon. I remember the first time I went in there, we were on the way to Dubai to visit my brother. I went in and had a spray tan before I got on my plane. I got off the other end bronzed and glorious. It was great. I had my nails done.
Claire, you're the only person I can ever think of who had a spray tan before going to Dubai. That is it.
But you can sit down and have an amazing meal. That I just remember there being the food
cocktails
so good. The cocktails, the Bramble. If you're a gin fan, the gin Bramble in the cocktail. There is, you can scan for champagne. And I know if Robyn and Simon were here, and unfortunately they couldn't be here tonight, they would be shouting about the Virgin Clubhouse. It is their home from home, I believe. I think they spend more time there than they do anywhere else. There's a pool table, there's a kids area. I remember the first time I went in there with the kids. So we went in there, Millie was a baby. She was probably like 15 months. And as you say, John, there are some people who frown on children in airport lounges, and we've always taken the kids in lounges until last year. This is so awful, I can't believe I'm saying this. My kids hadn't flown without being in a lounge until last year. But that's more about me than about them. And actually, do you know what, it's just one of those things that if you've got, enough points with an airline, you get lounge access and things like that. So, but the Virgin Clubhouse is one of those lounges that actually, if you're flying upper class, you absolutely get in there without any question. If you're flying premium and on a paid premium ticket, not a points premium ticket, if you're on a paid premium ticket, you can also use the Clubhouse if there's space. And if you impart 85 of your finest UK pounds to the ladies at the desk when you arrive per person. So
I think that's not bad.
Yeah,
It's not terrible for what you get
But
in that
if
lounge.
you go to a restaurant and have something to eat, you're paying that.
Yeah.
well,
I
per
guess.
person.
Yes.
It depends how much you're going to
Per
drink.
person, yeah.
It
Yeah.
depends whether you're going to utilise the spa, whether you're going to have your hair cut, whether you're going to go and have a spray tan, John. You never know.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Right?
think that's-
You never know
that's
if you
it
want to
as well.
arrive bronzed. All of that
Do you know
stuff's
what?
included.
I think the bathrooms there beat
Oh, they're
Disney.
amazing.
Or they're on
gorgeous.
top in Disney level
They are
Yeah.
in the
incredible.
clubhouse.
It
Yeah.
is like
So
being in
my
a
question
top-end
is-
hotel.
My question is, how early would you have to arrive to get the worth out of being there? Because that's the
So
thing
you can
with me.
In theory, you can still only be in there 3 hours.
Yeah.
However, I remember having been in there maybe 4.5. It depends how busy
it
it is.
opens at 5:30 a.m.
They don't chuck you out.
So
Yeah.
And do you know what? I think that's so vast. I mean, that the clubhouse is massive with lots of different zones and lots of different areas. That actually you can sit away from people, you can sit near people, you can sit overlooking the runway, you can sit in the restaurant, you can eat continuously for the whole 4 hours that you're in there if you want to. I remember there being like a shellfish in a deli bar, and it's amazing.
we moved tables, and every time we moved tables, I got my phone out, scanned the QR code, and ordered more drinks and food.
And the thing is
just incredible.
The standard champagne in there is high end. It's you're not getting prosecco, you're getting really nice champagne. So if you are paying for it, if you're flying premium, and let's face it, if you're flying upper, you're paying for it as well. It's included in the price of the ticket, but you're still paying for access to the lounge. Make the most of it, and I think you're right, Jill. You make sure you are there for 3 hours. Don't turn up for an hour. Make the most of it. Make it part of the trip, and enjoy it. Because believe me, if you don't, you'll regret it. If you rock up for half an hour having been scooting around the shops, you'll be disappointed because you won't have time.
Yeah.
So
I will tell you the one downside
take
of it.
the Mickey completely.
That's
what I would
the one
recommend.
downside of Virgin Clubhouse, and probably going upper class as well, is once you've done it once, you'll want to do it again.
Yeah.
And you're right, like sitting on the plane in your own little seat, and you've got the bar at the back where you can go and sit. Well, it's not a bar anymore, it's now a lounge area, but I remember sitting at the bar on the Virgin flight, and that was like the best thing. You could sit at the bar, chat to the crew. It was great. I have to say, I fly BA frequently. I've got enough points to BA to be able to go into the lounge with one guest anytime. And we had a bit of a drama in October when we went to Orlando because I can take one guest in, but I couldn't pay for any more people to get in. There was the 4 of us traveling, and so we had this like roulette as to who was coming in the lounge with me.
Did you play rock, paper, scissors or something like that?
Do you know what? We did go and have breakfast in the Wonder Tree, which if you're in Gatwick South, the Wonder Tree is a great restaurant, just saying, especially if you are vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free, any sort of diet modifications. Wonder Tree is really good. And it was quick because obviously they bring you everything within about 5 minutes. And then we had this dilemma of, well, only I could go in. I was all right. But who was coming with me? Who's my best friend in the family? And Millie was like, take me. And I was like, well, in the end, we negotiated. And because Morgan, although was nearly 20, he wasn't old enough to drink in America.
Yeah.
Morgan came in the lounge with me. So he could knock it out the park and make the most of it before we got there.
And then spend the whole day drying out.
Yeah, on the plane. But do you know what? I think the BA lounge at Gatwick is actually really very nice. It is serve yourself alcohol. They do have a buffet of food. And I think it's really comfortable. There's lots of different areas, whether you want to sit in a comfy chair, whether you want to sit on a sofa, whether you want to sit in the tech area and do some work. The loos and the bathrooms are really nice. So again, it's one of those locations that actually is, and we have been in there with Millie and Dan. We don't always leave them outside. And it is totally acceptable for kids to be in there, but we just choose carefully where we're going to sit. You know, if there's someone on their phone wearing red trousers, we stay away from them. We go and sit somewhere else. So, you know, it's a case of, I think that if you've got the ability to go in a lounge, for me, I don't question it. I absolutely would do it.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a lounge we haven't spoken about. And a lot of people don't use it as well. And it's the Revivals Lounge. If you're flying Delta or Virgin on the way back, it's where you can, on arrivals, you can go straight to a lounge.
You have to be upper class.
I've done
You have to be upper class.
Yeah.
Or there's a list of other different options if you've got a different like Virgin credit card or Delta. There's
if you're a gold flying member.
I'd forgotten that. We're flying Virgin upper on the way back in March.
Make sure you use Revivals.
Go and have a shower, go and have a chill cup of coffee, nice pastry.
Proper breakfast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see, I'm going to take the other side to this, because actually, if you're paying for it, just check that you're going to get your value for money.
Yeah.
Because I actually feel that I would actually say since COVID and for that whole period where airport and air travel has taken off properly again, a lounge is a much better experience for you. So certainly for me, it's a much more pleasurable experience. However, if it's not value for money, don't feel as if you're pressured into doing it. Don't feel as if you have to pay a bucket load of money for it, because actually some of the airports do some really good food. Actually,
absolutely.
There is that option. It is a complete choice. And again, going back to even what I said about airport hotels, I would much rather spend my money on my holiday at my destination than I would for just that little fleeting moment before you get on the plane. However,
I think
for us, that's not to criticise a lounge, because actually, I'm sure it's an age thing with me, but it's a very pleasurable experience.
I have to blame COVID for telling us to go upper class, because Virgin did those amazing Black Friday deals where we spent £900
I've heard some
each
excuses in my life, Ben.
Yeah,
and I wasn't the only one who took those flights.
Do you know what, though? I think you're right, John, that there is an option. And, you know, airport lounges are a luxury. They aren't a necessity. And there are, you know, rightly said, there are so many good places to eat in the airport if you just want to sit and have a coffee or have breakfast or whatever it is.
Yeah.
For me,
I'm a little bit
of a nervous flyer. So being away from the hubbub and the craziness of the concourse actually for me is a positive step, because I can chill and I can not get too stressed about all of these other people. And it does get busy, you know, with the people who are standing for 2 hours looking at a board. I don't know why they need to do that in the way. Obviously, everyone does the traditional, you must go to WH Smith's and you must go to Boots and you must, you know, all of that stuff. Ben, you do it too. I can do it.
We do.
Pay £4 for a bottle of water,
Right.
We have to grab a meal deal just in case the food's rubbish.
I've got a tip.
Oh my goodness.
Buy Smart Water, not Boots or WH Smith's water, because it's actually cheaper.
Whoa.
But for me, going to a lounge is a way of not increasing my stress levels prior to boarding a plane, which is is a risk.
I can see that.
But you know,
I think
Jill,
for us, what happened last time was, by the time we got through security, we would have had maybe an hour and a quarter before the plane, before we started boarding. So it just wouldn't have been worth it for us. So, and it was pretty quiet because our flight was 8 a.m. So started boarding about 7:20. So there was virtually nobody.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
So there's virtually nobody around. We went and we had a nice meal. And by the time we looked around a few shops, it was time to board. So it just, unless you've got at least as 2 hours, I'd say, for me, the value's not there.
Jill, you make it get to that airport at 5 a.m. just to make sure you max out your lounge.
Believe me, we were there at 5 a.m. We were there at 5 a.m. waiting for bag drop, but they didn't open until 5:30. But no, the other thing I was going to say was, talking of having breakfast at airports, Ben and Becca gave us a wonderful tip for Manchester. San Carlo, was it?
Yep, San Carlo.
It's
San Carlo.
Absolutely amazing restaurant. Really quiet. I mean, it wasn't too busy at all. First thing in the morning. Service was out of this world. Yeah. The levels of service. We actually gave a compliment to the manager about our server because he was so good. And the food was incredible, and it wasn't that expensive either.
I think it was just as good as plain food at which is Gordon Ramsay's.
No, the restaurant. No, the restaurant.
Oh, the restaurant.
Gordon Ramsay's plain food.
Gordon Ramsay has
I was thinking
a restaurant in 5.
What class are you flying in? Is it?
No, the Gordon Ramsay restaurant. Gordon Ramsay's plain food. Yeah, where we've eaten several times.
Yeah.
It was as easily as good as
if
that.
you're flying short haul from 5 at Heathrow, Gordon Ramsay's used to. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do a meal pack to take on the plane with you, which is much nicer than any plane food.
Little packed lunch in a cooler, and it was
in a proper cooler.
That we've still got them.
We still got them.
We saw something. We saw a sign for something like that on in Manchester when we were there in
They are
December.
absolutely delicious. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you don't like the food you get on a plane, grab one of those.
Yeah. Wow. I guess it depends the class you're flying, but there you have it. So hotels and airport lounges, there is such an array of choice from the cheapest to the most expensive, and then to lounge or not to lounge. You know, it's not for everyone. But if you're looking for me, that's where I'll be.
I prefer around.
From spray tan to the cheap seats on the plane with me. That's about it, isn't it?
The other place you can.
Next time when I'm in the back of economy, right, and I go to collect my luggage, I'm going to check everyone who's been in that Virgin Lounge for a spray tan before they come.
Nothing wrong with the back of economy. I like the back of economy.
The other place that's quite nice to sit is like the champagne bar in the middle of the hotel, in the middle of the concourse, because no one speaks to you. It's quite nice.
Yes.
To sit up at the champagne bar. It's nice. Anyway,
that's if you can afford the champagne and the caviar.
Yeah, I can't be bothered with the caviar. I just keep bringing the champagne. That's why I pay for the clubhouse. That's why I go to the clubhouse, because you don't even need to get up there. Thank you. I think we've covered that in depth, and I think that for anyone who's listening, who's been to any airport lounges or has stayed at any hotels that we haven't mentioned, drop us a note in the Wafflers Arms, which is our online Facebook community. Tell us about where you've stayed, what you think of it, whether it was fabulous, whether it needed some improvements. We haven't been sponsored by anywhere that we've mentioned today. We've got clearly some favourites among there, but nobody's paid us to say good things or otherwise. So this is just our personal opinions, and obviously everyone has their own. I think that it's been so much fun chatting about this tonight, and I can't, it's only like 3 weeks till I travel, and I'm already getting excited about it. I can't believe I forgot about the Revivals Lounge, Ben. I am putting it on the planner as we speak. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for another amazing show. We have so much coming up in the future. In terms of Waffles Wednesdays, the middle of March, we have got a really exciting show with something special for anyone who listens. You'll find there's a little promo for you in there, if you're interested. We had a chat with Dustin, who's the CEO of mousedining.com, which is an amazing website that helps you to secure not only your dining ADRs, but also things like Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique and VIP tours, both for Orlando and for California. So if you want to know more about dining reservations, how to get what you want, and also what's popular at the moment, we did have a conversation about what's top of his dashboard. It's really interesting. And we threw some ideas his way as well. We had a great chat with him. He was a lot of fun, and hope to see him again soon in the future. So Mouse Dining, and that's out on the 15th of March. Ben, what have we got coming up in Wafflers Wednesdays? Have we got something, a video or anything we can put up?
I think we'll have something, but I know on this exact day this podcast goes out, we're going to be doing something very special. And for those in the UK, it's probably not as special as those that will be watching from the States, because we're going to be touring our local Sainsbury's.
Oh, yes, we are, aren't we?
Oh my goodness, I completely forgotten we're doing that tonight.
So if you're listening to us on the 1st of March, please head over to our YouTube channel at 8:30 p.m. on YouTube. This is just going to be one of the most funniest shows, and that's just us trying to get the Wi-Fi to work in store.
Can I also, for anyone who's listening on the 1st of March, right? We're not live, right? So as we've recorded this, certainly in most of England, there's no tomatoes on the shelves in any of the supermarkets. So first thing, right, go and tell Claire when she gets to Sainsbury's, go and see if there's any tomatoes.
I don't like tomatoes. I'm not going to buy any tomatoes.
Doesn't matter. It's just points of complete anger on Twitter.
Let's put some context around this. So last year, in October, I think it was the beginning of November, actually, Morgan and I, when we were in Orlando, we went shopping in Walmart with Jason Knapp from Here with the Magic. And we've had lots of conversations with some American friends about what our supermarkets look like. So we agreed on a whim that one Wafflers Wednesday, we would go and do a live from a UK supermarket. And as we know, Sainsbury's does have an American shelf, usually, in their international food area. I think often they have Fruity Pebbles and Twinkies. So we will go and find out what is on offer and
how much
coming into how much things cost, but also what we have as standard in our supermarket. So it's a unique show tonight. It's not for everyone, but if you want to have a giggle at our expense, come and join us. And then we've got loads of other really exciting things coming up over the next few months. I know we've got a show about photography around Walt Disney World and getting the best out of photos. And great guests. So we look forward to seeing you with us in the future for more waffling. And until the next show, all we need to say is...
Waffle on!